Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Colby, thank you for that reading very well. Jim, thank you. Well, thank you all for allowing me to speak today before this congregation. When I better put the glasses on. When I was asked to speak, I recalled many of the 30 or so messages I had delivered over the years, here and at several other UU congregations. The process of creating these messages is really an exploration of my own feelings and questions about the meaning of life as they develop and as they change. So in preparation for today, I revisited and pondered on some of the topics that I had addressed before: love, death, truth, our place in the universe, the value of rituals, transcendentalism, and many others. I tried to discern a common theme, a thread that ran through all of them, and the core questions I was still trying to answer and share with my community. I wondered how my Buddhism practice might have changed my views. All these thoughts and ideas seem to distill down to one concept: the inescapable value of reverence in our lives, in our community, and in our Sunday services. I reaffirmed my belief that everything in the universe is connected at some level. Our Mother Earth was born 3.5 billion years ago, eventually forming soil, water, air, organic matter, and later on living plants and creatures. And they all remain interdependent, connected, and ever interchanging, sharing matter, sharing energy, and some say even sharing a universal consciousness to some degree. Even some physicists believe that small particles of matter can sense what other particles are doing on the other side of the earth. In short, we are all one grand creation. I'm not sure this is what Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King meant when he said, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in the single garment of destiny. And whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." But it certainly works for me. So with that, I found my personal version of the golden rule still holds. What you do to all else, you do to yourself. There is no separation, and love is that recognition of the oneness and shared substance. Respect and appreciation of all things follows out of that. And humility, above all else, becomes essential in understanding who and what you are. This all results in empathy, and under the guidance of reverence forms compassion. With reverence, we could all achieve greater good, a better world, and meaning in our lives. But what is reverence? Good question. Like so many other virtues, it is difficult to describe, but you know it when you feel it. In a book entitled Reverence, Renewing a Forgotten Virtue, Professor Paul Woodruff, I think this is the only book I could find that was totally about reverence. Oh, that was a Trump move there. In a book entitled Reverence, Renewing a Forgotten Virtue, Professor Paul Woodruff, chair of the Department of Philosophy at the University of Texas, says, and I'm paraphrasing here, "Reverence runs across all religions, even outside of them, through the fabric of any community, however secular. We may be divided from one another by our beliefs, but never by reverence. Reverence begins in a deep understanding of human limitations. And from this grows the capacity to be in awe of whatever we believe lies outside of our control: God, truth, justice, nature, death. And this is my favorite line he wrote. Reverence is the virtue that keeps human beings from trying to act like gods. I love that. Reverence is the virtue that keeps human beings from acting like gods. We should hang that on the wall. I thought of trying a new name for this idea of reverence, since its definition seems to be clouded by improper usage, confused with respect, admiration, and awe. There is no singular meaning out there. I thought of calling it delightful transcendence, because that's how it feels to me. But after discussing it with Cynthia, we agreed that that particular phrase, delightful transcendence, sounded more like the chef's special at a Chinese restaurant. I'll have a delightful transcendence with brown rice, please. So I didn't do that. Even humor can be reverential. I think reverence is a transcendent state, one marked by peace, joy, and hope. It accepts the inherent good of humanity. It is stimulated by our exposure to certain people, places, or things that all reside in our psyche and trigger positive responses. Sometimes people you know can raise you, right? Just by knowing them or hearing a hymn or being somewhere can raise you up. But it is difficult for us to maintain that sense of interconnectedness, to live at a higher level of consciousness in a world full of distractions. Shut off those cell phones. And the need for constant gratification, and our egos that will not let us rest. I can recall as a young man, a Roman Catholic, excuse me, my voice is not what it used to be, if you hear that. I can recall as a young man, a Roman Catholic, sitting in church facing the tabernacle, in which the consecrated hosts were stored in a golden chalice. God was in there, I was told, in the form of bread, white, round communion hosts that had gone through the process of transubstantiation into the body of Jesus Christ. The doctrine of real presence, capital R, capital P, taught us that this was the literal truth, not just a metaphor or a symbol. So to me, it didn't matter if the church was empty or full. The place just overflowed with dare I say it, with holiness. And that inspired me. It made me feel good, peaceful, hopeful, thoughtful, protected, especially in my neighborhood, safe and humble. I often feel the same way in this sanctuary. I feel reverential. Years ago, before Cynthia and I took our brief sabbatical from this congregation, I used to come in here on Saturday night or early Sunday to make sure, being an obsessive engineer as I am, come in here Saturday night or Sunday to make sure all the seating was okay and everything was orderly. I would take that occasion in the quiet of solitude to meditate on who we are and the upcoming service. I would sit in any seat out here. That is the power of this place, this sanctuary. I know now, as an avowed atheist, that the presence I felt was not the presence of God. However, as I transitioned away from Catholicism, I knew there was something in the universe that was beyond my comprehension, greater than I. Whatever it was gave me a sense of love and charity. I felt that again last Sunday very strongly when Pat Lamona delivered her beautiful musical message. That sense of goodness and kindness within a blessed community. What a joy. The Reverend Kendall Gibbons is senior minister at All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church in Kansas City, Missouri. A born UU and the child of humanist parents, she has been a humanist all her life. She was awarded the Humanist of the Year Award in 2015 UUA General Assembly. Might have been the Religious Humanist of the Year Award, I'm not sure. Religious Humanist? Mike? Yeah. She said the following in an article in UU World, quote, "I longed for the white First Communion dresses and the menorah candles of my neighbors. I secretly memorized Louisa May Alcott's My Kingdom Prayer and sang myself to sleep with For the Beauty of the Earth, a decidedly Christian hymn. I was fascinated by the hidden life of nuns. I came away from the movie Schindler's List desperately longing for a prayer to recite, an act of contrition, an acknowledgement of holiness, a blessing for the dead, something that carried the weight of human history and usage. At such a moment, the blank slate of theological freedom and diversity is a sterile mirror." She went on to say, religious humanists have long held that the phenomenon of reverence is a human experience that occurs regardless of theological belief. The feelings of reverence may be experienced in the context of atheism, agnosticism, polytheism, just as much as in monotheism. We are here in this place today because our service is not solely an intellectual exercise. It is and must be a spiritual one. Most, if not all of us, understand that there's more to life than what pure reason and logic reveals. According to UU minister, the Reverend Burton Carley, sermons are not for information and entertainment, but for insight and inspiration. I think we all feel the need to be in a space within a community where we can maintain and share our beliefs and respectfully consider and learn from the spiritual or philosophical beliefs of others, unencumbered by worldly distractions, to experience the delight of transcendence, to recharge our spiritual batteries. When we come together as a community, I believe we are searching for that feeling of reverence. Reverence, it seems to me, is not easily defined or described by words. The individual perception of reverence, like those of love or suffering, is not arguable. No one else can deny the reality of those sensations. When you feel them, you have them. Reverence is a feeling, and acting upon it is a virtue. It is grounded first and foremost in humility, recognizing things larger than yourself. Reverence out of humility engenders compassion. As the 18th century rabbi Simcha Bunim is reported to have said, and he said he never wrote anything down, which was interesting, it was all word of mouth. What he said was this: everyone must have two pockets with a note in each pocket. When you're feeling lowly and depressed, discouraged, or disconsolate, one should reach in the right pocket and there find the words, "For my sake, the world was created." But when you're feeling high and mighty, one should reach into the left pocket and find the words, "I am but dust and ashes." I am led to believe that we should do our utmost to promote these reverential feelings within our faith community, particularly at our Sunday services. We can accomplish that by recognizing several things. First, the power of music. It can make us more receptive to reverential influences, to relax into our true nature, as Jim's talk said. Enter into that transcendental state and build strong community. Hymns, chants, choral music, community singing has always been a part of faith communities. Who can sing Blue Boat Home without feeling that connectedness? I can't. How can you participate in our winter solstice singing ritual without a feeling of transcendence? Poetry. Poetry, too, has the power to create that transcendence. It helps us see and understand the world in a way that simple prose cannot, and builds a reverential environment. One brief visit to the poetry of Mary Oliver, my girl, never fails to get me to that reverential place. I'm going to try one short poem. It's the shortest one I could find by Mary Oliver. She said, "Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who made the morning and spread it over the fields. Watch now how I start the day in happiness and kindness." I mean, you know, she just blows my mind. But poetry has that capacity. I thought it ironic that I was giving this message today after last week's music service and before next week's poetry service. So there you go. Another thing is ceremony or ritual. How many of you remember Joseph Campbell, or as some of you call him, Saint Joseph? I hear people say that. He's the first UU saint. He passed away, I think, 2009, I think. Oh, I hope I'm not wrong about that. It'd be terrible if he walked in the door. We had a service here several years ago devoted to his writings. He wrote the following: "A ritual is the enactment of a myth, and participating in the ritual, you are being put in accord with that wisdom, which is the wisdom that is inherent within you. Your consciousness is being reminded of the wisdom of your own life." End of quote. So you may not recognize them as such, but they are here in our bell ringing, candle lighting, chalice table, or altar. Our typical order of service is a ritual that we owe back to our Judeo-Christian heritage and has the power to take us to a transcendent state. Next, visual and performing arts. I took a great course when I was in my brief tour in a seminary called, what's it called? Art and Religion or something like that. It was great. I loved it. Art, like poetry and music, can create a mood of reverence. You know, witness our tapestry, which I know a lot of people think they sit here and they look at it and they can feel something. Jessie here, thank you, Jessie, for getting that else here. There she is, thank you. Even the architecture of our building and performance art, such as drama or dance, can go a long way in telling our story. We have used both in our services over the years to great effect. Language and liturgy, of course, the sermon itself. Reverend Gibbons said she is willing to use the older languages of reference from the great religions of the world while not necessarily taking those older languages literally. I think it was one minister said, I forget his, Bumbau was his name, said the worst thing we could do is start sprinkling God in our things just to be correct, you know. But she does not believe we can invent such a language out of the whole cloth. She said she prefers using the accumulated wisdom of our forebears. So, words like holy, sacred, sanctuary, and worship remain in our UU lexicon and ease our way towards reverence. Lastly, a sacred place. Here it is. As Joseph Campbell also said, Your sacred space is where you can find yourself again and again. And this sanctuary is indeed just that. So let us treat it with respect as solemnity before, during, and after our services. I'm probably the biggest violator of that because since I came back, I flit around like a butterfly to say hello to people I haven't seen in a long time. But what are you going to do? So these items, music, poetry, ritual, arts, language, and a sacred space together make up what we call worship. They can lead us to that state of reverence and enrich our lives. One final word. Bowing. Bowing channels respect and love. It recognizes our communal relationship. In secular Buddhism, which is what Cynthia and I are, it's not divinity in a religious sense we're acknowledging, but our capacity for awakening and the intrinsic oneness of all. It's a spiritual exchange in which we recognize the unique importance of each being and thing in the universe, as well as the smallness of self. Bowing is a pathway, or even a shortcut, to reverence. Cynthia and I have gotten into the habit of every morning greeting each other with a bow. And often when we look outside, we see the birds out on our bird feeder, or it's just you have to go like that. Bowing is a pathway or even a shortcut to reference, a reminder of what is and who you are. It recognizes and honors the presence of the sacred in everything, our bodies, other people, animals, plants, rocks, the earth, and the waters. Thus the picture on the front of your order of service. That's Ronald McDonald. Stop laughing. That's Ronald McDonald standing in front, that's a statue, of a McDonald's store in Thailand. That's what he's doing. That's not a joke. And they have the statue stands there like this. I thought that was great. So I promised in the description of the service today that I would offer you all an exercise if you're willing to try it. So here goes. I'm going to ask you to think of the most important thing in your life, or the most wonderful person you know, or something that gives you great joy. Take a moment, if you can. Some people don't want to do it. That's fully understandable because it sounds very religious, But if you can, take a moment. Put your palms together. Put your thumbs up against your chest. And do a short bow. It does change your perception. It really, really works. So I'm going to leave you with that bow. I'm going to leave you with another bow. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you. Namaste.